You know, every single choice you make in the classroom, from the books you pick to the way you ask questions, it's all guided by something you might not even realize is there: curriculum theory. And getting your head around this is, honestly, your key to becoming a much more thoughtful and effective teacher.
So let's kick things off with a big question that gets right to the heart of it all. What is a curriculum really? Is it just a fixed blueprint you have to follow to the letter? Or is it more like a dynamic journey you take with your students? Or could it be something more? A tool to actually change society? How you answer that question says a whole lot about what you believe education is for.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to explore three really powerful theories that pretty much define every curriculum out there: product, process, and praxis. Yeah, see, this is the crucial point. A curriculum is so much more than just a list of subjects. Every little decision, what to teach, how to teach it, how you're going to assess it, all of that is based on a deeper, often hidden theory about what the purpose of education is in the first place. So let's pull back that curtain and make these theories visible. All right, so let's break down exactly what these three models, product, process, and praxis, actually look and feel like when you're in the classroom. This table, it's basically the perfect cheat sheet for getting the differences. With the product model, think of yourself as a deliverer, following a blueprint. For the process model, you're a facilitator on a shared journey. And with praxis, well, you become an agent for change. Your role and the entire focus of the classroom just shifts dramatically depending on the model.
First up, curriculum as product. Now, this is probably the one most people are familiar with. It's all about efficiency, clarity, getting from A to B. The curriculum is a fixed plan, right? It has super clear objectives, specific content you have to cover, and outcomes that are easy to measure, usually with tests and exams.
This whole mindset was just perfectly summed up by Ralph Tyler way back in 1949. He laid out this systematic four-step rationale. It's a very logical, top-down approach that, really appeals to policymakers who want everything standardized and accountable. You define what you want them to know, figure out how to teach it, then test if they learned it. Simple, right?
But what if learning isn't quite that linear? Let's switch gears to the process model, which paints a totally different picture. Here, the curriculum isn't some destination you arrive at, it is the journey itself. What's valued are the dynamic interactions happening in the room, the questions, the discoveries, the how of learning. The teacher isn't just delivering information, they're a facilitator, almost like a researcher, adapting that journey in real time. So, people who are big fans of this model, they'll point to a few key strengths. Because it's so flexible, it can be incredibly responsive to what your students are actually curious about. It's seen as a way to really foster creativity and genuine inquiry. And it treats teachers as skilled professionals, not just technicians who are there to implement somebody else's plan. And finally, we get to praxis. And this one takes things a huge step further. It's not just about what you learn or how you learn it, it's about why you're learning it. Praxis is all about combining action with deep, critical reflection. It's a model that actively challenges the way things are and tries to use education as a tool for social empowerment. At its very heart, praxis forces us to ask this really tough, but absolutely essential question: whose knowledge are we saying counts? Whose version of history are we teaching? Whose books are on the syllabus? This model, inspired by thinkers like Paulo Freire, aims to turn both students and teachers into critical thinkers who can question the world and work to make it a more just place. So, that's the theory. But how has all of this actually played out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at the political pendulum that has swung back and forth, shaping the curriculum history here in the UK.
This timeline is basically our roadmap, and you can just see the push and pull so clearly. Right after the war with the Butler Act, the product model was king. Then you get to the swinging 60s and 70s. The Plowden Report comes out, and suddenly we're in an era of process-led, child-centered learning. But then, look what happens. In 1988, that pendulum swings hard, all the way back to product. And honestly, with a few exceptions, it's pretty much stayed there in England ever since. Yeah, that 1988 Education Reform Act, it was a total game changer. It brought in the national curriculum, standardized testing at all these different key stages, and Ofsted to make sure everyone was accountable. This really cemented a product-driven system that was all about knowledge, measurement, and competition, and it was a direct reaction to the perceived freedoms of that earlier process era.
And this is what's so fascinating today. You see this incredible split right here inside the UK. While England has really doubled down on a knowledge-rich product model, Scotland and Wales have gone down a totally different path. Their curriculums put a lot more emphasis on broad skills, teacher autonomy, and student well-being, which is a really clear embrace of the process and even some praxis models. That's a perfect example of how two different political ideas can create two vastly different classroom experiences.
Okay, so we've talked theory, we've talked history. What does all of this actually mean for you right now in your classroom? Let's put together a practical toolkit you can use to navigate all these different models. Think of it like this simple but super powerful three-step framework. First, just recognize the system you're working in. Is it really product-heavy? Okay. Then, step 2, look for any opportunity you can to blend in process methods, things like group work, inquiry projects, just to make the learning more engaging. And finally, consciously try to weave in praxis-style questions to get your students thinking critically and to make your classroom more inclusive.
Because, and this is really the ultimate takeaway here, no single model is perfect. The most effective teachers are masters of the blend. They use the product model when they need clarity on what has to be learned. They use the process model to make that learning active and engaging. And they use the praxis model to make sure that learning is meaningful, relevant, and just.
So yeah, the theories and the policies, they definitely set the stage, but it's you, the teacher, who's directing the learning every single day. You're the one who's blending these models, making those moment-to-moment choices, and navigating the tensions. So the real question to leave you with is this: what's your curriculum story going to be?